The black rhinoceros carries a hidden, relentless weight through the heat of the savannah. What causes the adult bull to twitch and shudder against the dry, stifling air? Histamine releases into the skin, creating localized heat where the parasites have latched on. Saliva anticoagulants prevent the host's blood from clotting, allowing the tick to feed uninterrupted. Dust hangs in the air, coating the open lesions and increasing the risk of infection. Will this persistent scraping finally dislodge the parasites, or only worsen the damage? Hundreds of tiny lesions disrupt the natural barrier, leaving the skin vulnerable to the environment. Energy reserves deplete as the bull sacrifices grazing time to cope with the relentless itching. Repetitive movements become a primary behavior, far exceeding the time spent searching for food. What lies hidden deep within these folds where the bull cannot reach to scrape? Pathogens often follow these bites, turning small entry points into broader, aching welts. The savanna air vibrates with heat, forcing the black rhinoceros to seek the thin shade of a withered acacia. Rest is essential, yet the constant itching keeps the animal from finding a moment of true stillness. Saliva from the ticks triggers a persistent histamine release, turning the skin into a patch of angry pink welts. Each parasite remains anchored by barbed mouthparts, preventing the wound from closing as it feeds on the host. Constant head shaking consumes vital energy, diverting resources needed for daily grazing and survival. Friction from the tree bark has worn the skin thin, leaving behind a raw, hardened crust. Will the host eventually succumb to this persistent drainage of its resources? He moves to the remaining mud, hoping to coat his skin and mask his scent from the biting flies. Cool mud provides only fleeting comfort, as the parasites beneath the layer remain undisturbed and hungry. As the moisture evaporates, the hardened mud pulls at the sensitive skin, worsening the existing tiny lesions. These parasites thrive in the seasonal heat, waiting for a host to linger in their hunting ground. The savanna air remains stagnant, holding the scent of dry earth and dormant threats. Restless muscles twitch along his spine as the black rhinoceros shifts his weight to ease the constant itching. His skin is a map of inflammation, with red bite marks clustered where he cannot reach to scratch. The parasite pumps saliva containing anti-clotting agents into his bloodstream to keep the meal flowing. Will this persistent state of exhaustion eventually force the bull to abandon his favored feeding grounds? A red-billed oxpecker lands on the shoulder, scanning the crusted skin for signs of high-protein meals. The bird pulls the tick free, abruptly ending the parasite's cycle of blood consumption. If the bird continues to forage here, how many parasites can be removed before the sun sets? The rhino stands motionless, accepting the sharp tugs as he begins to find minor respite from the pain. Each small puncture mark left behind shows the site of a successfully cleared threat. A larger, engorged one comes free, leaving a raw, darkened patch that starts to bleed slightly. The black rhinoceros shifts his weight, attempting to settle the constant itch across his broad flanks. Will the lingering histamine response in his skin ever subside as the parasites continue their persistent cycle. Each small tug by the red-billed oxpecker extracts a source of long-term metabolic strain. Why does the rhinoceros return to this abrasive bark if the oxpecker is already harvesting the ticks? Removing one parasite reveals the hidden extent of the inflamed entry points across his thick hide. Does the removal of these blood-fed pests provide enough respite to allow his immune system to stabilize? The bull stands motionless. His breathing steadies as the birds systematically search the dense skin folds. Dust rising from the savannah settles into the raw scabs, creating a new challenge for the rhinoceros. Another tick releases its grip, leaving behind a small, darkening lesion that will take days to scab. Removing this one blood-filled creature eases the local swelling, though the surrounding tissue remains a deep crimson. While he gains comfort, the dry air holds the scent of millions of dormant eggs waiting in the soil. The heavy hide of the rhinoceros acts as a sanctuary for hundreds of hungry ticks. As the birds traverse the ribcage, they seek out the warmth of concentrated parasite clusters. Each bite injects anticoagulants, preventing the blood from clotting while the ticks remain anchored. Will the removal of these parasites stop the continuous cycle of inflammation and blood loss? The dry air holds no moisture, leaving the rhinoceros exposed to the relentless intensity of the sun. Why do these specific areas remain the most heavily infested, despite the constant attention from the birds? Each successful removal leaves a tiny lesion, a temporary sign of the ongoing recovery. The rhinoceros shakes his leg, a frantic reaction to the lingering itch deep in the joint. Darkening skies promise moisture, an essential ingredient for the next generation of parasites waiting in the soil. Every bird relies on these high-protein meals to sustain its own survival in this harsh environment. When the engorged parasite drops, it returns to the earth to begin its reproductive cycle. The black rhinoceros pauses as the bird probes the skin around his knee joint. Each pull from the oxpecker removes a parasite, yet many hardened lumps still remain. Does the removal of these parasites stop the underlying inflammation from spreading? As the weight shifts, the skin stretches, exposing new sites for the bird to forage. The local skin heat drops as the blood-feeding parasite is finally extracted. Will the oxpecker discover the concentrated cluster of ticks hiding at the base of the tail? The bird finds the engorged parasites hidden deep within these rough skin folds. The dry grass ripples as the wind carries away the scent of the resting rhinoceros. He remains standing to ensure the birds can reach his sensitive ear canals. Tugging at the ear canal, the oxpecker extracts another blood-swollen parasite. The dropped parasite leaves behind a small, empty feeding crater in the dirt. Small, dry lesions mark where the parasites once fed, signifying the end of their long, persistent drain. As the red-billed oxpecker departs, the bull stands in quiet stillness, finally freed from the heaviest burden. Though the bull finds relief, thousands of dormant eggs lie in the earth, awaiting the next rainfall.